welcome to Tiny DIY. So last week I showed you how you can cut your hair at home. That's why I have shorter hair now. For this week, we're going back to crafting. I learned how to crochet as a young girl, so it was a no-brainer that I would try making my own ear savers or ear extenders. Those are stuff that you use with a face mask to prevent your ears from hurting. The ones that I'll be making will be made from upcycled plastic bags. So instead of using real yarn, we're using plastic yarn or plarn. Just a reminder, make sure to disinfect your plastic bags by washing them or using disinfectant. Check out this video so you can see how you can make plastic bags into yarn and make ear savers.
I have here an ordinary plastic bag I found at my parents' home. Personally, I try to refuse plastic, but sometimes I still end up with some, especially from deliveries. What we'll do first is to cut the bottom off. So now we have the bottom open. Next is to cut off the handles and those excess plastic at the top center. To make it easier to cut, I'll fold it in the middle and then fold again. Now we have a square or rectangular piece of plastic. What we want to get is one long strip of plastic. To do this, we fold the plastic a couple of times until we end up with a narrow piece. Just make sure one of the edges is sticking out, and when you cut into the plastic, you leave about an inch uncut at the end. You can measure the plastic so the strips are even, but what I'm doing here instead is cutting it first in the middle, folding it in half, and then cutting again. I then cut the left part into 4 parts and repeat that on the other section. So now you have the strips. I made a mistake with the fold and ended up not cutting the other edge, so I'm doing it now. Now to turn this into one long strip, you have to cut diagonal like this. Just repeat this step until you get to the end. Don't worry about that section not being as uniform as the rest of the strip because we'll just be twisting the plastic yarn later. Once done cutting, you can roll the strip into a ball of plarn. Based on the thickness of this plarn, I am using a 4.5mm crochet hook. But you can adjust based on the hook that you have or how narrow your strips are. We start with what is called a slip knot. If you're new at crocheting, you can make a slip knot by making a loop around your hook, which you will hold on your right hand. Unless, of course, you're left-handed. Overlap the left part of the strip over the right one or the end. And then create a smaller loop or what we would call yarning over, and then pull that hoop into the first one. Pull the hook further to close the original loop and create a slip knot. Now that you have a slip knot, you can proceed to chain stitching to create what is called a foundation chain. To create a stitch, you again yarn over and pull that loop into the preceding one. That's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then I'll just compare it with an existing ear saver to see how long it should be. The number of stitches will depend on the thickness of your plarn and how long you want your ear saver to be. Make the foundation chain a ½ inch shorter than your preferred length. Once you reach your target length for the foundation chain, on the second chain from the hook, you will work in 2 single crochets. So you insert the hook into the chain and yarn over to create a new loop. You pull that and draw the yarn into the existing chain. You now have 2 loops in your hook. Yarn over again, and this time draw the plarn into the 2 hoops so you end up with 1. Repeat that on the same chain. Then just make 1 single crochet on each of the remaining chains except the last one. I'm not that experienced working with plarn, so my material is curling a bit. I would suggest that you make looser chains to avoid making it curl up like this. On the last chain, you make 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. On the other side, we'll work 1 single crochet for each chain again. You can also hide the end of your plarn within the stitches. Since we're no longer working on the foundation chain, you will insert your hook through the center of the chain. Instead of just 1 strand of plarn, the stitches for this row consist of 2 strands. And then yarn over and pull through. Yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops. Repeat that until you reach the end. At some point, you can cut off the excess plarn to seal the end. Then continue crocheting. On the last chain, just make a single crochet or add some more if you want it to look rounder. And then you can simply slip stitch into the end. I personally prefer a narrower ear saver, so I'm stopping here. But if you want a wider one, you can do another round of single crochets or double crochets around the edges. Now cut the plarn and pull the slip stitch close. To hide this excess plarn, I use a large needle to stitch and hide it into the ear saver. Now all we have to do is to sew in the buttons. Now these are the only buttons that I have, but I would suggest using larger ones that are a minimum of 15 millimeters in diameter. This is to accommodate all sorts of elastics. Try and find ones that have 2 holes as well, so it'll be faster to sew. As you saw, I hid the thread into the stitches so it's not that obvious. And then I just push the needle from the back and to the front through the first buttonhole. You then push the needle into the next hole and through the ear saver. You just repeat that until your button is firmly secured. You should end at the back where you can tie a knot and then hide the excess before cutting it. Here's a bit of bonus material. In case you run out of plarn while crocheting, you can simply attach another roll by tying it with your existing one. Then simply continue crocheting and just hide the ends while you do the hoops and stitches. I assure you it won't be obvious as long as you keep your crochet stitches looking uniform.
So this is what I made. So it's a bit tricky to make plastic yarn because the strands are not that uniform and it can be quite stretchy. So make sure you take that into account when you're deciding on the length of your ear saver. Overall, it's a quick project that can help you deal with plastic waste in your own home. Let's see what it looks like in action. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more NBuy-friendly DIY tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell button for notifications. See you next week. Bye!